Aw, shit. Here we go again. Welcome to the Sloppy Book Club podcast. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Celese.
And we're now on episode 13.
Yes.
Yay.
Another milestone for us.
Yes.
Every time we make a new episode, I feel like it's a big accomplishment.
It is.
Because it's hard doing
Life
this.
is so hard, especially when we both work full time. We both have full families.
Mm-hmm.
You're about to give birth.
I know.
Like, any day.
Any day. It could happen right now while we're podcasting. Oh my God, imagine. We're going to keep recording.
You're going to cross your legs and
Yep.
pull that baby in.
Until this episode is over. I am not postponing any more episodes. I want us to get through everything. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And then we'll be fine.
No, he's pretty high up. He's not coming down just
yet.
yet.
There's no way.
But it is really any day now. I was hoping it would be more today than anything because I'm ready, but he seems not to be. But anyway, so like every episode, we have a drink review. We're going to discuss some trigger warnings of books this time around, especially for the book reviews we're doing today. I think it's good to just have a little discussion on trigger warnings and just why they're important. Because we have some difficult books that we read this week.
Risque books.
Very risque. So we just want to discuss that, be as transparent as possible. So please, please listen to the trigger warnings before listening to this podcast, as we, going to be going into some really crazy book reviews, I feel like, for this week.
Agreed.
But yes, let's start us off with some drinks. Mine is pretty similar to the one from last week's. The only difference is, I guess there's no mint and lime in it. Basically, it's lemonade, Sprite, muddled strawberries, and that's it.
So the difference is the water.
It's the water.
Water. So you might like this one a lot better.
Yeah, because I feel like it's just going to taste like strawberry lemonade.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
It looks good, too. Looks delicious.
Yeah, strawberry lemonade.
Nice.
Almost not like the one from Wendy's, which is my favorite strawberry lemonade.
Is it?
But it's close. It's pretty close. I think it's because of the Sprite. It adds another layer of sweetness. But yeah, it's kind of similar.
You're going to have to remember all these recipes.
I really am.
Because then I could just put some vodka in them.
For the summer.
For the summer, yes.
Yes, pretty much. What do you have today?
So I'm a slacker. I don't have my typical wine. So I have some Trulies today, and I have two in front of me. Yes, I do. I have an orange peach fizz and the pina colada one. They're both very delicious. Yes, I've had them both.
Pina colada.
Yeah, it's really good. I feel like I would prefer it more slushy.
Yes.
But it's still pretty good.
And you can't go wrong with Trulies. They're the best,
No,
especially in the summer.
Except I don't like the original Trulies. I like the tea ones. Those are my favorite.
The lemonade ones are really good too.
The black ones, the black can.
Yeah. It's the mango lemonade, the strawberry lemonade.
Those are good.
I feel like those are really, really good. I obviously haven't tried the new poolside ones yet or any of those.
Or the margarita ones, right?
Or the margarita ones, no.
Yeah.
But hopefully in the summer.
Soon enough,
we'll get there. So that's it for drinks. Our mocktails, our Trulies. So let's start talking about trigger warnings and why they're so important.
Yes, please.
So I know for me, there's certain things I just don't want to read about. Whether it's just maybe it's going to bring up something for myself personally, or it might actually traumatize me. So I'd rather have the trigger warning to kind of set myself up.
Of course.
So I don't cause my own trauma or have to relive my trauma.
Okay.
So that's why I feel like they're important. What would you say?
I would agree. I don't get triggered very easily. Not that I've read a ton of books that have trigger warnings, but most of them that I've been reading lately do. I jump in anyway with 2 feet. I usually don't care once I read them, and I'm like, well, whatever, let's go for it. But I completely agree, they're important. There should be trigger warnings in every single book. If they're not in there, at least in the author's website, wherever, there should be something somewhere.
Yes.
Because people can be triggered by any of these
Especially
things.
if you're going to be talking about, like, sexual assault or violence and, like, there's just certain things that, you know, there should be some kind of warning. I know one book that I read, what was it? I think it was a Colleen Hoover. I think it was It Ends With Us. I didn't realize how that book would make me feel. Like, I know she mentioned it in the beginning of the book, her reasoning behind, and I read a little bit about the book prior to reading it. So I should have been warned more. Like, it should have rang some alarms for me, and it just didn't until I read the book, and I was like, oh, shit. This is making me think about things, like, the way I grew up, or, like, just certain relationships, and it was just, like, it really brought me back to a place, but I really enjoyed the book, too. I had, like, a love-hate relationship, and I think I spoke about it before, too.
I think you did.
So that's one that comes to mind when it comes to, like, books that could really trigger you.
Yeah.
But I also feel like some books could really traumatize you in certain ways, too. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green.
Yeah.
That book fucked me up.
Did it really?
That book really fucks me up. I never cried so hard
oh my God.
during a book in my life, to the point where even my sister remembers that book because of how it made me feel.
Oh my God.
She was just like, "Are you okay?" And I was
sobbing, sitting
I
there.
was just, like, incoherent. Like, I couldn't even, like, explain. I was just, like babbling, and she was like, what happened? And I'm, like, trying to tell her about the book, and she was like, wait, it's a book?
That's hilarious.
That has you like that? And it you know, it freaking traumatized me, like, not in... It, like, I still remember those emotions. So I feel like some books could really get to you and really get into your mind and really fuck you up. And that was one of them. It's a great book. I've only read it that one time. It's not a book I would read again. Just because, like, it hurt me so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that book really, really hurt me. That book hurt. That book hurt my soul. Like, it didn't have to go that way. So, John Green, you didn't have to do that to us. I wish the movie gave me that much emotion because the book was just so good. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, I read the book. I did not see the movie, though.
The movie doesn't give it justice. Like we said, like, you know, sometimes books have so much more emotion. You feel so much more because there's so much detail that you can't really portray that in a movie.
Yeah.
And that book, ooh.
That's great.
Yeah. So books could do that to you. So yeah, I mean, triggers could be like in a good way or a bad way. Maybe it could trigger like a great memory, you know? Trigger warnings don't always have to be like this negative kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for books, sometimes it mostly is just to prepare you.
Definitely.
But I think they're important. They really are.
I agree. And I think they should be in the book. I know sometimes they don't put it in the book, whatever. But if you're a person that you feel like you would get triggered by something and you're reading something, especially if it's in like the dark romance or whatever fantasy, then you should be looking for that.
Especially in dark romances. Yeah, definitely.
Those can be very,
Yeah. And I think we're going to kind of like dive into that with like some of these books, and
so at least one of them.
One
there I don't recall any trigger warnings.
No,
maybe
there
violence,
isn't.
Murder kind of thing.
No.
The other one, it's gonna get there.
It definitely is.
We'll do the simpler one first.
We'll start off nice and sweet.
So please. Just once we get there, I'll list out, because I have some of the trigger warnings here.
Yes, perfect.
And I'll list those out. So please
stop
listening if
this might be a shorter episode than most, just because like we said, we're talking about books with trigger warnings, and we don't want to scare you guys off, and we want to be as transparent as possible during these book reviews. So we actually have 2 books, and they're both from authors that we're going to be seeing at the Romanticon in July. And we've been focusing on reading books for the Romanticon just to get more familiar with the authors, know their work. So the first one we're going to do is Follow Me, Sweet Darling by Amanda.
Go for it. You got this.
Segrist?
I was going to say
Segrist.
I think. I don't know for sure, but I thought you were going to butcher it
I did better than I thought I did.
Yes.
I would,
Good job.
So, Follow Me, Sweet Darling. In my notes, I'm like, what did I read?
Really?
I guess there was an ending.
That's so
those are my 2 main points. So basically, it's about Adeline, whose sister was brutally murdered in a house that she just bought.
Yes.
And she's trying to figure out what happened to her sister. And there's a Detective Eddie Klein, who is supposedly there to help her find the killer, tell her what happened, so forth and whatever. This is a very short book. 90 pages.
It's a short story.
It's a short story. And I think that's why I'm like, what did I just read? Because it happened so fast that I'm like, that's it?
I would agree.
Like,
I don't think in a bad way.
Not in a bad way.
It's a pretty good book.
Yeah.
I was so entertained about it.
I sat there, read it within the first, 2 hours or so. Because I had to keep stopping for other things. But I think it was more like, I just wanted more.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm like, what did I read? I guess there was an ending because it was just I feel like it just cut off abruptly.
I think it did too. I was expecting. Well, I guess we can get there, but I was expecting a second book to it, but it's a novella.
Right. Yeah.
There really aren't multiple books to them, so I should have expected it to end this way, but not really.
Not really.
So yeah, Addie, her sister was murdered. She goes to her house to try to collect all of her things, and things just start to happen, little things here and there the longer she stays.
Think of paranormal, haunted house vibes.
Things like she's hallucinating, so she's seeing blood on the walls that aren't really there. She cleans out a drawer one day, the next day it's dirty again. So little things like that. Changing
the locks to the door and then the door going back to its original
that
locks.
That was really creepy.
That was so scary.
Oh my God.
My thing was, why you stay?
Why are you still there? I would have left day one when she saw the blood dripping in the wall and screaming. She basically almost blacked out. And then this detective guy shows up right behind her. Mind you, she's upstairs in her room.
And she thought she locked the door and she's like, how did you get in?
No, thank you. No. I would have left right then and there.
So
just a lot of little things happening like that throughout the story. We don't really know much about the detective. He randomly shows up here and there when she has issues.
Every time she has an issue.
That's very true. she wants information from him, but there is no information on what happened to her, who murdered her. They know that
even he doesn't want to like really tell her. She was like,
no.
He tries to like make her feel like shit because he was like, oh, there's no pictures of you and your sister. Your sister never really spoke about you. It's been like 5 days or so since her death and you're now just showing up. And what's even crazier is their mother.
That left me hanging.
Right? Mama's kind of crazy. Because Adeline didn't know her sister was dead because her mom didn't really tell her.
Yeah.
Her mom kind of like was just like, oh yeah, your sister died.
But she's definitely got some like mental health issues.
Yeah.
It's almost like she forgets, but she doesn't. And she like, I don't know how to explain it.
She has no like, I don't know.
It's like she was like happy talking to her, like, oh, hi, how are you? Or why can't you be more like your sister kind of thing. But then she's like, yes, your sister died 5 days ago. It's almost like she's not sad about it, but...
And she's like, oh, go take care of her things. Go,
I have a key here, go.
Yeah, go figure out what to do with her stuff. And then she shows up there and her sister is like already cremated and mailed back to their mom. Like, she didn't even get to say her goodbyes, nothing. So she really doesn't know anything about her death. Like, Adeline asked her mom, like, how did she die? She was like, oh, she was murdered. But, like, there's no details. So then when the detective shows up, she's like, how did my sister die? Especially when she walked into that room and she saw all the blood. She was just like, what happened? And Eddie really didn't want to tell her. But then eventually, I guess he tells her, like, she was, like, beat up.
Yeah, like you couldn't really identify her kind of thing.
Yeah, they had to identify her with her teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of gross.
So, yeah, she's kind of trusting him a little bit because he's very cute and she's kind of into him. So she allows him to come and go as he pleases, but it's weird because you don't really know when he's there.
Right.
He just kind of pops up.
He just shows up.
And I think the one thing that finally got her to be like, all right, I got to get out of here was the locks changing. Yeah. Like after him and the detective and her changed the locks, the next day it was back to the old locks.
Yeah.
So then she was just like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. I'm selling this house.
And then she was also like, what is going on? Like, she had her suspicions about the house, so she winds up going to the library to find out like more information about the house.
Yeah,
like,
I forgot about that.
Because she was looking for the deed of the house because she couldn't put it up for sale if there was no proof that her sister owned it. But also, who did she leave the house to? You know, if she passed, like a will almost. So she's looking for all these documents.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, I gotta find the deed to the house or whatever. So then she goes to the library and she looks up the house and she finds out that on October like 15th or 16th, more than one death has happened in this house.
Yes.
So first it was a dad like killed his wife and children. Another one was, I think it was like a married couple moved in and they wound up dying from like carbon monoxide poisoning. Yeah. And then an old couple or somebody came to get the house and then there was like a house fire and like all these things were happening and she was like, what the fuck is going on? So she's like, I want to find like the original owner, like who had the house to begin with. And she finds out that it was, what was his...
Is it Neil? Neil...
Kai.
I can't remember. Neil Cade.
Cade?
I don't...
It was some guy named Neil. He owned the house.
Yes.
So there was... That's all she knew was that it was this guy named Neil. He had the house. She doesn't know how the family, the man that killed his wife and kids, got the house, but eventually he did. So she was just like, okay, this is way too creepy. she, makes copies of all these news clippings and stuff, and then she goes back home, and then the detective shows up there again. She's like, this house is haunted, there's something up with this house, and he's like, the house can't kill your sister, a person killed your sister.
Right.
And we're gonna, find the person. She was like, okay, so how do you explain all these things that happened? So then he's like, maybe you need to, like, rest and, chill out. So then she still needs to find the deed. So she decides that she's gonna go into the basement and look in the basement. Now, I'm not going into no basement of some creepy haunted house.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, no. First, she goes up to the room. Doesn't she go up to the room first and finds the safe? And then she goes down to the basement?
So where does she find the
picture?
That was in the basement.
In the basement. Because I feel like she went up to the room first.
There was a safe, yes.
She goes and she sees a safe and she's looking for the key, and then the guy shows up, the detective, and she's like, why the fuck are you in here? Now she's like pissed off because she knows she locked the door.
Right.
So she's like, you need to leave, whatever. And then she goes down to the
basement.
basement.
Then she goes down to the basement. Yes.
Like an idiot.
She goes down to the basement and she's looking she knows that all the stuff down there is like from all the families that previously lived there. But what's creepy about it is, like, there was a house fire. So how did all this stuff, stay? So she's looking through these boxes, and she comes across a picture. And the picture looks just like Detective Eddie.
Wait.
Except he doesn't have the scar on his face.
Yes.
I was so creeped out.
I know. It was like in the movies, like, don't go in the basement.
Don't go in there. And then she finds this picture of him, and she's like, what the fuck? Because it's an old picture. It's like from 19-something another. And his name is, the picture is the picture of Eddie, but it's saying that that picture is of Neil, who was the original owner of the house. So creepy. So then she runs upstairs. She's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. She's trying to load up all her stuff in her suitcase. And when she turns around, she's trying to get out.
Remember, she gets a phone call. She gets a phone call from someone.
She's
in the basement.
Oh my god, my hair stood up.
That's why it was so creepy down there.
Yeah. So while she was in the basement, right?
In the
basement, she's looking at the picture. Then the detective, she gets a phone call from a number she doesn't know, who's been trying to call her, but they haven't been leaving a message. Yeah. So she finally answers, and she's like, hello, who are you? You haven't been leaving a message, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm detective, blah, blah, blah. She was like, excuse me? And he was like, yeah, I tried leaving my card with you. I've been trying to get in touch with you to, talk about your sister's murder or whatever. And she was like, what? Oh, but I've been talking to Detective Eddie. Is he your partner there? He's like, who's Detective Eddie? And then that's when she saw the picture. Yeah. Is while she was talking to him, she was like, oh my god, this is the guy that I've been talking to. This is Detective Eddie, like in this picture, which was like super freaky. So then she freaks out, and I think he's like, oh, you should come to the station. And she was like, I'm on my way. Yeah. So then she like runs upstairs and she starts trying to like pack up her bags to get away. And then she could have been out the door. I think she was. It was
a stupid mistake.
Yes.
Why would you go back upstairs and pack?
Exactly.
Like, who cares about your shit?
No, she was like, there was something of her sister's that she wanted. She wanted like the teardrop like necklace thing. Yeah. And she was like, she wanted something of her sister's before she left. So she was hesitant at first. She knew she should have just left, but she was like, no, I'm going to go, get this necklace for my sister. And then she grabs it, turns around, and she sees his boots or something, like his feet. And then when she looks up, it's Detective Eddie / Neil there. And he's like, oh, where are you going, kind of thing. And she's like trying to, she's still away from him where she's looking at the door and she's like talking to him, but she keeps looking at the door to see like she could find like a way to like pass him.
Right.
And he knows like that's what she's trying to do too. And
so he just like starts doing things, and he like starts to make the room bleed, like how she saw in the beginning.
And he's like, why aren't you screaming this time or scared? And like he kind of like likes that she's like fighting him, because I think he said something like no one's ever really fought him before, and he likes, her sassiness. He liked hearing her scream during like when he was doing that stuff to the room and stuff, and he's like, why aren't you doing that now? But she's like trying to keep it together so like she can run past him and leave.
Right.
And then it ends with him basically saying like, follow me, sweet darling.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it ends.
Yep. And that is it. It leaves you completely hanging. Because before he says that, he describes, or he like kind of tells her he sold his soul pretty much.
Oh, yes.
So that's how he was able to live in this house for this long and do the things he'd done to all these people.
But he says he sold his soul because he wanted to like impress like his family or like his parents or something.
Yeah.
But I feel like, how do you impress, like, he wanted to like be someone, he wanted to have a family, he wanted all these things, but he wound up selling his soul and that not happening.
Right.
And now he's just killing people that come to the house.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I guess there was an ending. What did I just read?
I really wanted more. I wanted it to be more like, obviously the whole thing was a paranormal suspense.
Right,
but, like,
right.
I needed more at the end. It was a great book. Like, I was in it. Like, each page, I didn't want to stop reading it.
I didn't either.
It was spooky at times. That ending, I really wanted it to keep going.
The follow me, sweet darling, I wonder, like, why is that, like...
Why that, yeah.
Why does he say that? But I guess, we've totally forgot, like, the beginning of the story was of the family. The dad and the two daughters and the
first family that died.
And they're hiding from their dad, who's, like, an alcoholic, and... when he opens up the closet where she was, he's like, follow me, sweet darling. And then that's when we find out about Adeline and her sister and stuff like that. So that's like his go-to is follow me, sweet darling. So I wonder where that comes from.
Right.
Like, yeah, he sold his soul to the devil, but like, did something happen to him where someone said that to him, to Eddie, and then he uses that and they all do that? I don't know. But it was definitely very interesting. It kept my attention.
Yeah. Page turner.
It's definitely a page turner. I guess my thing is like, when I was thinking romanticon, I was thinking like spicy romance novels and like
And I think she does have more romance. I just happen to pick, of course, the most non-romantic romanticon book out there. But I think she does have more romance stuff.
But like, essentially, that's what I thought, like, this was all about.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw me off. I guess he's like a spider, trying to catch a fly kind of thing, luring them in. Yeah. I guess that's where the romance aspect of it is. Because he says he is attracted to her, which I don't think was like other families. Like, that wasn't like his sister who had a boyfriend. It wasn't like the family who he was already married with children. There was the newlyweds, and then there was the old couple. So this is like the first person maybe he felt like an attraction to that came to the house.
And she was into him.
Yeah.
She liked him a lot.
So that was the interesting part.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to dive into the second book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
So, like we said, this particular episode, we're talking about trigger warnings. There wasn't anything to like... We didn't have any trigger warnings for this first book that we reviewed, but definitely for this second one, there's definitely a lot of trigger warnings. So please, Jenny's going to go through all the trigger warnings. So after we go through it, please, if you don't want to listen from here on out, we totally understand. This isn't for everyone. It's, I think, more like not our usual thing at all.
No.
Not at all.
And I'm not bothered by a lot of things, like when there's books that I read that have trigger warnings. And this one, like, it got to me a little bit.
This one bothered me.
Like, my legs were shaking as I was reading certain scenes. Like,
it made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I actually had to, like, breeze past certain things. Like, I just couldn't read it. I just, like, skimmed through it. I was like, okay, I don't need to read this part. Okay, I could start from here. It's definitely something I had to, like...
It made me sweat.
Push
like, really
through.
Sweat. Yeah.
And it took me a lot... It wasn't a big book.
No.
But it took me a long time to read.
Oh, really? I, like, blew through it.
No.
I needed to blow through it.
No, I had to give myself breaks in between and actually read other things to get my mind off of it.
Oh, my God. And this was only, like, what, 200 pages or something?
290, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So, this is Heinous by Yolanda Olson. So here are some of the trigger warnings. MSBD survivor, and that's that Munchausen syndrome. Sexual assault, self-harm, genital mutilation, very graphic.
Yes.
Violence, family love, forced and consensual. And there's more. There's like, you could probably like list off like every
incest
page.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a hair somewhere in my arm and it's really bothering me. So yeah, it's like every page you could probably come up with like a trigger warning in each one.
Basically.
And the thing I really, really, really liked was right in the beginning, the author did note all of these trigger warnings, and she did say like something about if you're really starting with this book as your first book of mine, you're brave.
Yeah.
Like,
she was like, please, like she was like, if you know my work, this won't be as crazy, but here are the triggers. But if this is the first book you ever read of mine, basically like good luck, like this is a little more intense than her usual books.
And she wasn't lying. Well, I haven't read anything of hers. But.
And that's my thing. I'm like, if this is the one you're like, this is the first one you're gonna read of mine, like I'm warning you, then I can only imagine her previous books. Like even though they're less triggers, I'm still like, oh my God.
A little scared.
A little scared.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is called Heinous.
Yeah.
And it really is. Like
completely
like not a normal romance. This is definitely very dark. It's very obscure. Like it's not to me it's not a romance.
I was just gonna say that. I don't think it's a romance.
It's not a romance at all. I think it's like a horror.
That's a good way to put it.
Like it really is.
It's really not, but it is.
I think, and a lot of it is like mental illness horror. Like these people have gone through it and they're living through that trauma, and like they don't know what's right and wrong.
Right.
So that's how I am playing it in my mind to be okay with it, because even the triggers weren't enough for me. And I thought even reading them, even like the genital mutilation kind of part, I was just like, oh, it's probably not going to be graphic. Probably something happened to her, whatever.
Yeah.
So then when I'm reading it, I'm just like, yeah, this is a part I'm going to have to, like, skip through.
I was sweating. Like, I literally sweat reading through this part.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but she said it was. That was my own fault. I can't blame her for not putting it out there because she did say it was going to be a rough one. Mm-hmm. And we just dove right in. Yeah, we did. We really did. We went full trigger and we did not think it through. No, we did not. But that's more our fault than hers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I read it because I've never read anything like this before. And I know there's so many books out there like this. Mm-hmm. And I'm not mad I read it.
I'm not mad I read it, but yeah, this is
too much for me.
This is too much for me. It's definitely not my cup of tea. It definitely showed me what I can, handle and what I can't. So that was a good, eye opener for me. Like, okay, this isn't for me. I don't need to dip my toes in this again. It was an interesting story. It centers around a woman named Aunt. The male character calls her Aunt Maze, and then the male character is Elijah Young, and it centers around them and their love story, their chaotic love story. They grew up with Mama and Papa, and
It's very confusing in the beginning because you don't really know these characters. But in the beginning, the author kind of talks about how Maisie cares about this little boy who lives with them, and she always wants to be around him. But her parents are very no, that's wrong. You can't be around him. So you're thinking, okay, is that her brother? Did she
they make it seem very inappropriate the way they're like, oh, I would go to tuck him in or sit by his bed, and Papa would get really angry about it and would say, things about sin and bring God into it.
Calling her a Jezebel. Yes. It's her fault that men fall to her. Mind you, she's this young little, what was she, 10 or something at the time?
She was young.
Yeah. So, for me, when I started reading this book, I was like, oh, maybe that's her brother, and she, molested him or something, and they're trying to keep them apart or whatever. But her parents aren't really helping by calling her names and, beating her down, taking her to the doctor, saying that she's sick, and, getting her on medication
that, made her teeth rot.
Yeah.
And
she got sick.
And it stunted her growth. So she looks younger than what she is. Right. So we find out later that she's 32. And then Elijah winds up being in his early 20s. So what happens is, as Elijah gets older, the mama and papa are getting more you can't be around him. So they kind of chase him off and kick him out. And then Maisie is just there by herself. And she's really distraught about it. She's she wanted to be with him and they're keeping him away from her, and she's really upset about it. And then we find out that he comes back for her and then they run off together.
Yes.
And he also tells her how he cut his leg off.
Yeah.
And he cut the leg that left the house first. Yeah. The first step that he took away from her, that was the leg he cut off.
That he abandoned her with.
So he cut off his own leg, somehow has a prosthetic now, and they're both on the run. And
hopping from hotel to hotel.
And not only are they leaving these places and going to hotels, but they're leaving chaos after.
Yep.
Because these two are basically murder people. Yep. Elijah.
People are so cute.
They just kill
They're
people.
pretty much serial killers.
They are serial killers.
They don't have a pattern, but they're serial killers.
Yes, they're definitely serial killers. Elijah suffers. I think he has like what is it when you hallucinate?
I don't know.
Oh my God! When you hallucinate, when you think you see people.
I'm sure.
What is that called?
I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, duh.
What is that called? No.
Maybe look it up. So he basically every once in a while he'll like wake up or get up from a nap or something and think that people or things or monsters are chasing him. So he'll like wake up from that, and she basically has to try to calm him down because obviously there aren't things chasing him, but he literally takes it to a whole nother level where
schizophrenic. Schizophrenic.
So he'll grab a knife and try to attack whatever's around him, but
he's saying that
he's the only one around him.
He says he hears and sees people and they're trying to get him. So he goes into these crazy spells, especially if he doesn't sleep. And Maisie tries to make sure he takes his medicine, but he hasn't been taking his medicine. So, they're both cuckoo. And, here he's schizophrenic, and she's just, I don't know what's wrong with her. There's something wrong with her, too.
I couldn't even begin to imagine what she would be diagnosed with because everything that she thinks and says and does is so out of the ordinary and kind of just out there. I don't even know how to explain it.
Super codependent.
Yes, they are.
To the point where, if someone looks at him, she thinks they want him, and she has to kill that person. And the same for him. Anytime she leaves the room, he's like, "Are you coming back? Are you coming back?" Right. They're super codependent. It's so, toxic.
Yeah. You slowly start to see, how much more it is than that, and it's more romantic feelings towards each other, but still at this point we don't know who they are to each other. We assume that they're siblings, but he calls her Aunt Macy.
So then I start to think, okay, they're aunt and that's her nephew, but then she keeps saying I have a secret that I need to tell him, and they're trying to make their way back to Mama and Papa's house. Basically, I think to kill them, essentially.
Yeah, so she mentioned it a couple times, and still, even towards the end, she kind of mentions it. She says, all I want is a hug from him.
What does that mean?
What is that? I have no freaking clue. That was still completely over my head. But the whole time, I'm, waiting to see, what's this hug? What's this hug? So they're trying to make it back to the home. They're trying to hitchhike. And they're staying places to places. So they end up getting picked up by this guy, Mike. He's super nice to them. He stops at a diner with them. He feeds them. And even at this point, you kind of see where Macy kind of gets jealous of the hostess who's looking at Elijah. And he ends up kissing Macy with tongue, and that's the first time that they ever have a real kiss. So that's kind of when they start to get really, really close with each other.
And you're but you're calling her your aunt, so it kind of is weird. So you said, you don't know their family dynamics. You know that they live together at some point. You know he calls her his aunt. So you're is that brother and sister kissing? Is that the aunt and nephew? So it's just really, really weird. And
I think that's what mostly kept me reading, because I really wanted to know what that life was. What happened, what is it?
And then I think they make Mike uncomfortable because he winds up leaving them. Yeah. But this upsets Macy so much because I guess she had a gift from Elijah in the car, and she wants it back, and she wants to get back to Mama and Papa and get that hug. So I want to know what's in that bag. What was the secret that she had?
Right.
And then this hug that she's like going crazy about.
Right. And she doesn't stop talking about it.
No,
It's like
she
constant.
doesn't.
But wait, we're going to go there first. We're going to go there first kind of thing. So
then they're trying to make it. So Elijah, he was like, I know where he's not going to be far because I stole his ID, his driver's license. So we know where he lives. So before they go to Mama and Papa's, they're going to go find him.
Right.
And Macy is like, oh, he's going to pay for, he thought, he could just get away with, like, leaving us. But he took my shit, too. Oh, I'm going to get him. And we already know she's cuckoo because she's already killed people.
Yes.
And we also learned that Elijah kills people and he takes their teeth for her to make dentures.
God, that's right. Was that before or after the cabin?
In the cabin, we find out that she has dentures that he made.
So before the whole like trailer with the couple, they go to a cabin. Yeah, so they end up in this cabin that Elijah knows about, and they find an empty one where they want to stay in, and Macy's at some point leaves the cabin and finds another cabin with a couple having sex, and she kind of gets like annoyed by it, and she's like, they're being too loud. And she goes in to the cabin. Yeah. and she kills them. Yeah.
Well,
first she's like, you're being too loud.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to sleep, and he's been through a lot because Elijah hasn't been sleeping well. So she leaves their cabin because she was like, I'm gonna fight your demons for you, so you'll be able to sleep. Because she's he's going through one of those spells because he hasn't been taking his medicine. So then she falls upon this other fucking cabin with this couple, and it reminds her of Papa and her, and that's when we find out that her Papa, whether that's her real father or not, we don't even know. No. Like, we don't know who Mama and Papa are, but he sexually assaulted her. Right. And she's remembering this by the sounds that the man is making. And then she's like calling the girl, his girlfriend or wife, whoever she is, a whore. And she was like, she's making too much noise. And so she busts in with the axe. And the man is like, what the fuck are you doing? She was like, he's been through enough. You're making too much noise. He needs to sleep. And they're like, who the hell are you talking about? So then, to make a long story short, she just kills them. Yeah. And she takes something out of him.
His heart.
His heart, right?
Yeah, she takes his heart.
Takes his heart to prove to Elijah that she killed his demons. Yes. And then she's like, oh, but we can't stay here. He was like, well, we can't leave tonight. So then they wind up staying in the freaking cabin. And then that's when, like, they want to get closer. And she has to tell him that they can't because her Papa sold her up.
Like, literally sewed her vagina. Yes. Closed. Disgusting.
So she was like...
Wait, she didn't just say it. She literally
showed him
legs, like graphically. There's details of her opening everything up and put his finger inside of her vagina,
so that he could see that
she's completely closed. Yeah. Yes.
So not only does she do that, right? So you thought, okay, they're just gonna go to bed or whatever. No,
he does.
He goes to bed. She's like, I know he's gonna want to be with me at some point. I have to...
Warning.
Yes.
This is gonna get a little graphic.
She's like, eventually, he's gonna want what every man wants. So I have to fix this.
I'm like cringing over here.
So she decides she's gonna take a knife and take the sutures out herself with a knife.
And not just the sutures, because, mind you, she's like a grown adult.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we don't know how long she's been closed up.
Right. So there's probably some closed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So she literally gets on top of the kitchen island with a knife. She ripped the mirror from the bathroom so she could see what she's doing, and she slices herself open.
Yep.
It does not end there, people.
Nope.
She then goes into the bedroom. Elijah wakes up.
No, he's like panicked. He sees blood. Mm-hmm. What's wrong? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Are you okay? Mm-hmm. Woo! And she's just like, I want to give you what you want.
Yep.
I don't know if I could keep going.
So let's just say they get together. What?
Like right after she open.
Imagine, she sliced herself open. She's bleeding from it. She's in pain.
In actual literal pain.
And she's like, yeah, we can have sex now. And they do.
I can't.
And it can't feel good for her.
Absolutely not.
Obviously, he's getting what he needs out of it. So now, this crazy lady who just opened herself up had sex with her possible nephew, brother. We don't know.
Nope.
The craziest part is, before they did it, he was like, take your dentures out. Do you remember that part?
Yep. He said, I took mine off, which is
his prosthetic leg.
So you need to take yours off, which means her teeth.
That he makes for her.
He makes her teeth, her dentures.
And
homemade dentures.
Homemade dentures. And we find out they're super, super homemade from people they killed. Because after this crazy scene, they have to leave because she killed 2 people. And then they have to hitchhike again. And they come across a married couple, and their camper. And the married couple are this nice man. His wife is looking at them like they're crazy because when they introduce each other, he's like, this is my aunt, blah, blah, blah. But then she's noticing how close they are, and she's just like, you're too close to him. Like, she even tells Maisie, she was like, you guys are kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are too close. She was like, you don't know us. Like, how dare you, kind of thing. But something that she always pointed out was how nice her teeth were.
I was just thinking that. And I knew right away what the fuck was going to happen. Because I'm like, why do they keep talking about her teeth?
So they keep talking about... And the reason why they keep talking about their teeth is because when they left the cabin, they left her dentures.
Oh my God.
So then they go with this couple, and Elijah's telling the husband, oh, Macy's never seen, I don't know, the Rocky Mountains or wherever they are.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, we'll make a pit stop before we get to the location you want to go to, because they still have to go after Mike for stealing their stuff. So they're like, oh, let's make a pit stop and, we'll go there. And then Elijah looks at Macy, and he was like, don't be mad at me because they've been arguing, whatever. And he puts his tongue over his teeth, like, I'm going to get you teeth kind of thing.
That is so weird. And I can see it.
Yeah.
I can envision that scene.
So then they wind up going on a hike with this couple to tire them out so that when they kill them, it wouldn't be as hard. Long story short, they wind up killing them.
Yeah.
The husband, tries to fight for his life, but his legs are broken because they threw him over the cliff. And then Macy winds up killing him. She, kicks his throat or something. And then they killed the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Elijah takes her teeth out.
It's so crazy.
And then they go back to the camper. And he was like, oh, you go. Macy's like, I gotta look for money for us so that we could get a ticket, bus ticket, so that we could go to Mike's and then we can go find Mama and Papa. And then Elijah's like, all right, I'm gonna be over here making my dentures for you. and then, because this is so crazy.
It is.
So then she finds money. And he's like, I got a present for you. He gives her new dentures. She's crying. She's like, oh my God, he loves me.
So creepy.
And then it ends with them getting the bus tickets. Yep. And they're on their way to Mike's. And that's how it ends. This is book 1. So that's how it ends. So we don't know what the hug is. We don't know Mama and Papa. But I do have to say that they are not nephew and aunt. Nope. They are not brother and sister. Nope. Elijah is her son. What? That she had with Papa. Yeah. And we know this because she kind of insinuates it. Right. She's like, I've been there since he was born. That whole scene with the cabin people really triggered that, moment of when he raped her. Yeah. And then she got, pregnant by it. And he tried to blame, I think her mom blamed someone else. So I think Mama and Papa are really her parents. Yeah. And then she had a baby with her dad. And, her mom just ignored it.
Right. She hated her for it.
Yep. And then as he got older, she fell in love with her baby. Mm-hmm.
But would she have fallen in love with her baby if things didn't turn out the way... if they would have really kept them apart the way they did, would she have fallen in love with him? I feel like she was just being... the way she was describing it in the beginning, it was I was there comforting him, I was touching him, but it wasn't anything sexual. Mm-hmm. You don't know who they are to each other, but when you think back on it, it's okay, well, that's his mom, so she's feeling wants to comfort him.
But then how did it become that?
Is it because of him? I don't know.
That was the only way she could stay close to him?
And that's what she kept saying, I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you want. And then they finally had sex. But he doesn't know that that's his mom. I mean, he thinks that that's his aunt. Yeah. Which is still creepy.
And she still she's, struggling with telling him, too. Yes. Because she doesn't know how he's going to react to that. It's one thing for it to be your aunt, but it's another to be your mom. But, at the same time, it's I don't know.
Creepy.
It was definitely something different. Have you ever heard of V.C. Andrews, the author?
No.
So this kind of reminded me of that kind of realm of V.C. Andrews. So she's a author, a very old author, and she had, I think it was it was the Dawn series. I forget what it is, but it kind of was similar where, it had incest and rape in it, but not as like this. It was there was a character named Dawn where she finds out, quote unquote, she was kidnapped by who she thinks her parents are, and they have this family, they're very poor. But she's kind of attracted to her brother, and he's kind of attracted to her, but they know they can't be together. And I feel like the parents kind of knew there was something between them, but they couldn't really say anything. But then I think the mother dies, and she finds out that she was quote unquote kidnapped. So now that brother really isn't her brother. And she really comes from a very rich family. But I forgot why she ended up with the poor family. I feel like they were trying to save her from someone or something. But it kind of reminded me of that V.C. Andrews kind of books where it's like obscure romance, kind of weird, incest, kind of like weird.
I can't do incest.
But it wasn't incest because they were not related. But the fact that they were attracted to someone that could have been their sibling is just kind of weird to me.
Very creepy. I don't like it.
They do wind up together if I'm not, because it was a series.
Okay.
And they wind up being together and having a loving, like, relationship, family, and then they wind up dying from a hotel fire. Oh, that's right. Her family owns, like, a prominent hotel, in, I don't know, some rural town somewhere. And they grow up, they have a loving family, they have a daughter, and her uncle winds up wanting his niece kind of thing. That's where it gets kind of like crazy because it's always like a family member falling in love with someone. It's really, really weird.
I can't do that.
But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that because I've read V.C. Andrews. I actually think I have a box downstairs of some of her books. And I always found those kind of like weird kind of books, but this was kind of like
over the top.
Like, over the top. Because it wasn't as graphic.
And this was very graphic.
And
like, if you have no trigger warnings or you don't really care too much, which, like I said, I'm okay with a lot of it. This did make me cringe. I did get nauseous in that part where she, like, cut herself open and then had sex with him. That actually made me nauseous.
And that's why I told you it took me longer to read it because I had to read things like, you know how like you see a scary movie and then you have to go and find something funny to watch?
That's only you.
Well, that's me. So when I see something scary, I can't go to bed. I gotta find something funny.
You need a palate cleanser.
Yes, basically. So that's what I had to do. Like, when it was, like, these weird kind of moments, I was like, I can't go to bed with these, like, images and these feelings.
Yeah.
So I wound up reading, I go to, what's her name? Nora Roberts. Because she's your go-to, like, romance, lovey-dovey, like, normal, you know?
Oh
so, I read her Bride Quartet series. So it's like love, friendship, family, you know, it centers around, it's 4 books, it's 4 best friends. They grew up like loving weddings and putting on fake weddings for each other. And one was the photographer, one was the florist, blah, blah, blah. And they grow up and they actually make a wedding company where, Mackenzie's the photographer, Emma's the florist, Laurel's the baker, and Parker's basically like the planner organizer. And each book centers around their love story of them finding, you know, their true love, obviously. So book 1 is about Mackenzie, and she's the wedding photographer, and she falls in love with the English teacher and like their relationship, and obviously all of these have those, like, there's a dilemma, there's something that happens where they break up or something, and then they get back together, and it's the happy ending.
Typical.
So, Bride Quartet, like, that was my thing. It was the 4 best friends, and they're all falling in love and finding their true love, and, like, you know, building their friendships amongst the 4 of them, building that love and creating their own families. But it was super cute because it's like, you know, they grew up together, they had this plan, and they actually fulfilled it, you know. They really made a successful company out of something that they used to just play around with.
Yeah.
So it's Mackenzie and Carter's story is book 1. Book 2 is Emma and Jack. He's like he grew up around them too. He's a friend of Laurel's brother, Delaney, and he's an architect. So Emma the florist and him the architect, and their love story. And then there's Laurel. Laurel falls in love with Delaney Brown, who's Parker's brother, one of the girls. So basically, the guy she grew up with, like, basically that's like my brother. They actually, like, kind of fall in love, but they've always liked each other kind of thing. And then Parker, her love story, she falls in love with, like, this mechanic guy, like, the grungy, like, and she's this prim and proper, like, businesswoman, and he's, like, a jeans and t-shirt mechanic, you know, who doesn't take shit from anyone, including Parker. So, like, each book was super cute. It got me through.
Your palate cleanser.
Yeah, it got me through the craziness. So, Nora Roberts, if you ever, like, you're reading something, you need something cutesy and fun and nice, go to Nora Roberts.
Oh
she
God.
won't disappoint you. So I definitely had to do that because I couldn't.
Yeah, I totally get it. It was pretty rough to read.
It's probably something that I'll think about from time to time.
Yeah. I agree. And it was well written.
Yeah,
it really was.
She's a great author. Right? It's not.
I can't believe, like, this came out of her brain. Like,
yeah.
I would never.
But I guess she's really into, like, crime stories and stuff like that. I was reading about her. So I guess that's where probably some of that, like, craziness kind of stories. Because I'm pretty sure there's stories out there just like this.
I'm sure, yeah.
So it's, like, reading it is definitely different than watching a documentary on it. You know? I think reading was just, like, a little too much because I watch documentaries and, like, crazy murder stories all the time, and this was
very graphic.
This was crazy. This was crazy.
I'd like to try something else of hers, something very, very mild. Maybe some of her older stuff.
Maybe.
I don't know because I feel like it was a well written story, and I feel like it's not.
And it's not even done. That was book 1.
I know. Don't look at me like that.
That was book 1.
I know. And I just feel like, I guess, give props to where you need to give props.
Yeah.
It was a well-written story. Yes, we cringed a lot, and it was a little too much for us.
I need to know what the hug was. Is.
I promise you I will read the next one. Only because I need to know. I can't not finish.
You're going to have to tell me what the hug is.
Fine.
And what whatever present he had that she really wanted from Mike.
I'll definitely read it.
Yeah. I don't think I can. That was tough.
Which is fine.
That was tough for me. Yeah, that was tough.
All right.
But like you said, she's
a good writer.
A great writer.
I can't take that away from her. It was just this one really wasn't for us, but
yeah, I couldn't handle it.
Keep going.
I couldn't handle it. I had a hard time, and, like, I had to read other books in between to get through it. But not to knock her. I mean, she's a great storyteller in the most craziest way. So you can't stop that. But it's not something I can continue.
Right. Which is fine.
There's just some things I just can't read about, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
This was one of them in particular. But yeah, that was Heinous.
Heinous by Yolanda Olson.
Yes.
Yep. I'm reading now another Romanticon author. Just because I was, like, going through trying to figure out who I wanted to read next, and I found this book by Jennifer Field. It's called Twice Lost, and it's a 5-book series, of course. I'm trying to find standalones, and it's not working.
It's not, yeah.
But I'm like 75% in, and I actually really freaking love it.
Is it like romance, or is it dark romance?
It's I guess it's like a paranormal romance type book. Obviously, I go for paranormal romance over just regular romance.
Right.
But the problem is I can't find the actual physical book anywhere. It's not being sold, like, anywhere.
So it's only like on Kindle?
Kindle, yeah. That pisses me off because I wanted to bring something to have signed, and I actually really like this book. It's about I don't know how you say it, harbinger. They're the Grim Reapers, like the things that bring people to like the river Styx where their souls go. Okay. And it's basically there's a bunch of them, and their jobs are to bring people to like certain sections of the underworld, and there's like a mild underworld to like the really, really bad stuff. And in the beginning it talks about this guy who goes into the underworld, and the I don't know if I'm saying that right, harbinger is bringing him to like the worst of the worst because he's a child molester, murderer, whatever. And he's trying to bargain with him, and he's like, people bargain with me all the time, it's not going to work, until he finally tells them there's a female harbinger, which is impossible. There's never been a female harbinger or whatever, and which it means that this female is in Earth, not in the underworld. So he leaves to go try to find her, and he does. And I feel like from reading it, she's part succubus. You know, those like sexual deviants, like all they want to do is pretty much have sex with guys.
No, but okay.
You don't know what? Yes, you do.
No.
I'm sure if you saw the word succubus. I don't know how to say it.
I don't know.
But anyway, she's like super sexual, and she like does the things that he doesn't like, but he's trying to save her. She has no idea who she is. But then we find out she has like wings, and she's supposed to be part of the underworld and bringing people to the underworld. But it's really, really good. I like it a lot, and I'm kind of upset that it's not in physical form.
That's so weird.
It is, and I can't find it anywhere.
Was it ever sold in like book form?
I saw it on Amazon, like a mass paperback type thing, but it still says completely unavailable.
And her website doesn't have it either?
Nope. I actually messaged her on Instagram. I was like, why? I need your book.
I need the physical copy.
I'm sure she's going to ignore it, but whatever.
You never know. She might answer.
I basically messaged her because I wanted to know if she was going to have physical copies there.
Oh, okay.
Because if she does, then I'm going to buy them. There's 5 of them. I don't know. We'll see.
Is it around the same two people, or do you think they're like different stories?
I think they're different stories.
Okay.
The way the titles are in the same realm.
In the same realm. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
See, it's not this fluffy romance thing that I was thinking from some of these authors. They're throwing me off.
There are a lot. It's just I tend to go towards that. The non-traditional romance because I'm not a huge fan.
And I'm the complete opposite. Give me tradition. Give me like something I can relate to a little bit. Really hard for me.
You stick to that, and I'll stick to the dark.
Definitely.
Nonsense.
So this was episode 13. Talked a little bit about these trigger warnings and the romanticon we're going to and some of these authors. We most likely will probably be doing a little bit more episodes on them just because it's something like we're looking forward to. And it's something that's coming up. So we'll definitely be doing that. Again, if you listen this far through, thank you. We know it was just a lot, especially this last story. So, we definitely want to give different stories their time and attention, and this was definitely one. So yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.